Were you surprised at just how quickly the goodwill was lost with a portion of the fan base?
Yeah, I was. And I think back on that period a lot, like that whole period from mid-January to, that run they went on at the end of the regular season that culminated in the win at home versus Michigan State. I mean, this is where it's tough as a podcaster, and you know this from doing this and certainly writing about it every game. There's a spot in between unquestioned support of the coach and the team, and the coach needs to be fired. And certainly there are injury-related items that you could look at last year where and also developmental issues, where you could look at it and say, well, things just didn't coalesce with that roster. They didn't come together the way that they should have. And I think that the problem is this fan base has been, I think they felt like they've been led around by the nose with IU basketball for a long time in terms of they keep getting promised, not progress, but like the achievement of a higher plane of basketball, and they're not getting it. And I think as things started to devolve last year, when you put it in the framework of Purdue is the best team in the country for January and February, and they end up going to a national title game, they lose to UConn, who seems to be using kind of a modified version of how Bob Knight would have put a team together 20 some years ago. They just win 2 back-to-back titles. Like it wasn't just the performance of the team, it was also the context in which that was occurring in. And it just, I think for a lot of fans, they are kind of hair trigger right now, especially in a Big Ten that wasn't that strong. I mean, people forget, like only 6 teams made the tournament last year out of the Big Ten. And of those 6, 3 of them were an 8 seed or worse. So it wasn't even like it was a particularly strong Big Ten. And the fact that you couldn't pull it together there, the fact you lose the big games that you played, you lose the home game to Kansas, you lose the game in Madison Square Garden to UConn. It just kind of felt like, God, we are like a second or third tier basketball program right now. And so I do think some of the reaction was overreaction. I do think some of it was unfair to Woodson and the coaching staff, because look, they did get to the tournament 2 years in a row, the 2 previous years. They have upped the caliber of athlete that they've been able to bring in at the top end. And there has been some pride restored to the program, minimal, but still pride restored compared to the morass that existed not just during the Archie Miller years, but, Crean missed the tournament 2 out of the last 4 years he was here. It wasn't like, things were all coming up rainbows at that point either. But the flip side is, I think what made it worse last year was questions being asked about what was going on with the program were met with almost a, how dare you? Not a, we acknowledge things are not going right and we're upset about it too and we're trying to fix it. And that really, I think, amped up what would have been just regular level discontent into a furor. I mean, we got Trilly Donovan in his Discord saying that, like, Woodson's getting fired. We got, the candidates being sounded out. It doesn't sound like any of that was ultimately going to happen. Who knows what was going on behind closed doors, but it really did kind of feel like what could have been just a regular, God, this season sucks, why is it happening, why can't we get better reaction, and it turned into something that kind of fed on itself in a very negative way. And I think we're still kind of living in that right now. Like it to some degree, I think explains a lot of the ambivalence that we're seeing.